The Kids in the Hall's Bruce McCulloch has had an incredible 30-plus year career as an actor, producer, writer, comedian, author, recording artist, and drunk young punk. Most recently, he's been mentoring and exec producing the new all-boy, all-diverse sketch comedy troupe, TallBoyz. And we've got them both. I'm David Gale, and welcome to ACTRA Spotlight, where we're building the Canadian star system one podcast at a time. Yes, as I was saying, we don't have to pretend like we don't know each other. We can.
No, we're old friends, and a lot of things happened in the '80s at the Rivoli, and some of it we're proud of, some we're ashamed of, and some of it is just what it was.
Some of it we can't remember.
Yeah, of course, and that's
Really?
most of it.
That's most
I
of
think
it
I was
for
in
me.
Parachute Club for about an hour though once.
Really? Who
Yeah.
wasn't?
Yeah,
in Parachute
really, yeah.
Club for an hour. But those were the days, like big shoulder pads and like men would wear brooches. I remember
Right.
wearing a brooch,
Yeah.
like a sparkly brooch.
Well, I just wore little boy's cowboy boots, which I think I'm still wearing.
Little boys, they're your sons, right?
Yeah, no, I wish. Yeah.
So, Bruce, you're now involved with another all-male comedy troupe with
Right.
TallBoyz.
Yeah.
So, and congratulations on a second season of TallBoyz.
Thank you.
That's fantastic, and you can see it on CBC and CBC Gem.
Yeah.
Anywhere else?
At my house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We like to put up the sheet and screen it at night, and things get crazy. So just come on over.
Okay, Parachute Club could be there?
Yeah, they could be there.
Okay, good.
We actually screen it on their parachute, so it's
Perfect.
It works perfectly.
A big, nice
Yeah.
white screen.
Yeah.
Which old-fashioned parachute, because parachutes don't look like that anymore.
Oh.
No. I've been told, not
Yes.
that I've jumped out of an airplane. My mother has,
Yeah.
though, at 64, but that's another question
Yeah.
or story. So, TallBoyz, how did you get involved with them?
Well, I do some work at Humber now and then. They have a comedy program there, and I go and like stage scenes or give them writing tips or whatever. And Vance Banzo, who's one of the members, was there, and I thought, oh my God, that guy is amazing. And I actually brought him in on a room I was doing, another CBC show that I developed that didn't happen, and he was like really funny. And he said, "Well,
A writer's room.
Yeah, writer's room." And he says, "Oh, I have a comedy troupe, you know." And so I saw them, and I was like, "Let's do a show," And it was one of those weird things that it just like I've developed a lot of stuff, and most of it doesn't work, but this one just went. Whoosh, it just worked, and I took it to CBC, and I said, "Oh, I really want to develop these guys," and figured it out, and just got them working, and it happened.
Now, I came to see you do a one-person show at the Sketchfest.
Yep.
And they were your kind of opening act at that point?
Yeah, and that was part of, and like you plan to do things, right? And how do we figure out our careers or whatever? And it hardly ever works out. But I actually had thought, okay, I'm going to have them open for me. CBC has to come see me because they have to, and then and then I'm going to say, hey, what about those guys? They're pretty funny, right? And it actually worked out.
Wow. How do you find, what are the biggest differences between TallBoyz and the Kids in the Hall?
Well, they have an underlying kindness that we didn't have. We have a kindness, the Kids in the Hall, but it wasn't the first note of our wine. The first note of our wine was more like, me first, or something. And I think for the TallBoyz, they had a, when you're working with group, it's all about how do you guys make decisions? What's the brain think? How does it work? Does one person have the ability to ram a sketch through or kill one? And so I had to listen really quietly to them. They're very quiet in what they want, and it comes out kind of, they don't scream through the front door. So
Really?
So it was just like figuring out what was important to them, and obviously they're, a lot of their stuff's about race because they're all non-white, and that stuff's really important to them. So in that instance, I would, just sit back and say, well, as a technician, I think that point of view is coming through or whatever. So it's just to learn what a different group does. And I think I could look at some of the pitfalls that the Kids in the Hall went through sort of more as cautionary tale, like, you need to do this or don't do that, like worry about pre-production or, don't fight the wrong battle or whatever that is I could impart on them. But generally they're not at all that much like the Kids in the Hall.
In that they're not argumentative and me first.
Yeah, and I think they're not. Their competition is very quiet, and I think the Kids in the Hall were not afraid to have their competition on their sleeve.
Yeah, they seem that way in their sketches too. They seem at times like, I mean, they have out there characters certainly, but there is a sense of like a quiet calm at times that's that sometimes is even sort of sweetly slow. They
Yeah.
just take their time to do stuff. Which
Yeah,
is really
without
cool.
question. And when you work with a group, you really have to. It's different than like if I'm casting a show, it's you have to work with that entity and listen to them. And for me, I wanted, because I had the great ability to have my own show, and I know how great and daunting that is to give them as much as I could, that they wouldn't freak them out. As I was just reminded, Gula just said, yeah, you're going to freak us out slowly. And it's like I've been trying to freak them out very slowly for a year and a half.
And has that worked?
Yeah, they haven't freaked out yet.
That's
So I'm doing
so
something
good.
right. Yeah.
And you touched on it earlier, which I find fascinating. So you're a middle-aged white straight dude
Yep.
who's dealing with these, I guess, 20, 30-something
Yep.
POCs.
Yep.
And so you said you sort of sometimes just become a technician around them rather than impose your ideas of what comedy is on them, or
Well, my
sensibility.
I think when it comes to things that are really important to them, terms of, especially that a lot of their stuff does deal with race. It's like I just sort of sit back, and it's fine to just let the conversation go. I have to stop my natural ability to go, okay, no, I think it should be this and this, because it's their landscape. So in things that are important to them, I only go, well, what's your point? What is your point of view? And is that becoming clear? As a comedy technician, I can go, I think there's better jokes, or you're staying there too long, or whatever. So I do become a technician in those things.
So is that something that they teach at Humber, how to be a comedy technician?
I don't know what they teach at Humber. Like
What?
well, no, I think it's a really good program. But I think it's more, they get people going. They get people talking about ideas. They get people competing for ideas, and they get people up on their feet, and they get them to write a monologue and all that stuff. So, the overall takeaway from Humber, I'm not sure, but I think what it is, part of it is finding your people. And Tim also went to Humber. So it's really as much finding your groups and just doing it.
So how did that happen for the Kids in the Hall? How did that marriage happen?
Well, I don't know. It again, like the 80s, you just wake up and you're in bed with somebody. It's like,
was that Scott?
yeah, I think yeah, not me and Scott, but Scott and other people. I think you don't know sometimes, and this is one of the things I like when I do talk to quote unquote young people. I don't think you realize how important the people beside you are going to be. You and I met you in Calgary.
That's right. Yeah.
Before I started the Kids in the Hall, it's like I didn't know that you would be my friend and we'd be still at it. Literally 30-something years later.
Yeah, almost 40.
Yeah, and so Kids in the Hall, it was like I didn't know these guys were going to be my lifelong brothers. And so for us, it was sort of a social process. Like I had some scenes, these guys are going to do them. Okay, and then there's other people involved, and then they went away because they didn't like how mean we were or bossy we were. And then
You mean other people in the troupe?
Other people that ended up not being in the troupe,
Right.
who started in the troupe and just would wander away or whatever. And so I think for us, it was just this weird, like a party where there was 100 people, and then at the end there was just us, us 5 left. And so we came together on our ideas in a different way, say, than the TallBoyz. Like, my scene, I like my scene, I like this one, do you like that one? And for some reason, it felt like it just worked for us, but I don't think we realized how profound it was until sometime later.
And how influential was theater sports on your life and your comedy and your troupe? And
well, I mean, it is the unsung hero. Keith Johnson, who started theater sports in Calgary, is really the unsung hero of my career, like our career. I mean,
I agree.
They taught me to, first of all, they gave me a stage. They taught me not to be precious, right? And it's like, oh, what am I going to write? Like, no, you just get up and you try it. And we were kind of enfant terribles, assholes, and they rocked with us. Like, we would make fun of theater sports, we'd break the rules, and and then we started, doing our scenes after theater sports, and we started to draw theater sports, and they never,
as the audience,
yeah, and they never complained. And then we started a thing called late night comedy, and they did this amazing thing. So we worked forever there, or not forever. We worked for, when you're young, it seems like a long time, but it isn't. For maybe a year, we did shows, and then I said, well, no, we're going to Toronto to make it. And me, probably more than anybody, was kind of an asshole. And they had and then they said, okay, well, here's some money. It's like, what do you mean money? They said, all the money for all the shows you've done, we've saved up.
What?
So they gave us $4,000.
I've never heard this
They
story.
didn't have to give us to come to Toronto. And it's like, no, you guys earned this. And we were sort of pricks there. Like, we sort of didn't really, like, say how amazing they were in the press or whatever. We're just like, yeah, we're great, a little bit. And they gave us that great gift, and sometimes the best gift is money, to come out east and do it.
That's phenomenal. So that's Loose Moose Theatre Company, and Keith Johnstone was known for improv. He wrote the definitive book on improvisation, and they had competitive improv theatre sports, where it was just really a show that had this framework where young people, essentially young people, could really try out their improv chops within the framework of their competitive improv show.
Yeah, and I think what I I still like about it is it doesn't have the game shtick that some of the other, maybe Second City has. Like, we didn't do heralds, and we didn't do tricks, and we didn't do freeze. It was really more about the truth of characters and storytelling. And when something got bored, we all knew. And it was
because the audience would boo or throw.
Would boo, but also we knew in a way. Like, so there was the competitiveness of, like, what story are you telling, as opposed to just try to be funny, which is probably the worst thing comedians can do.
And you had mentioned earlier that we met there because I came with Toronto to do this sort of Canadian improv Olympics or something, with a team here called Myth Toronto, and
which is a bad name to have in a Calgary. You and Wendy Hopkins.
Me and Wendy Hopkins. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Why was that bad to have in?
Well, because it's like we already don't like Toronto if we're in Calgary.
So I actually come from Winnipeg.
Right.
And Dave Huben was part of this comedy troupe back when I was in high school, and Jay Brazo.
Yep.
And they sang a song, All Aboard the Asshole Train, going to Toronto Town, oh Lord, going to Toronto Town. So I didn't know about Toronto. All I knew about is this comedy troupe thinks that Toronto's a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
But no.
Well, all you have to do is travel 30 miles from Toronto to realize what people think of Toronto.
Toronto is a great city. I love Toronto.
Oh, no. And listen, part of the reason I moved here was for comedy, but I really wanted to come here because the Viletones were here, and the Damned would play here, and the Buzzcocks would play here. And so that's why I came here.
So you came for the music.
Yeah.
And stayed for the comedy.
Yeah. And the truth is, the Shadowy Men, who are our band or our friends, they're 2 and 3 years older than me. They moved out here, and it's like, I want to go there. I want to follow those guys. So I came for the comedy, but I kind of followed my buddies too.
Yeah. Holy shit. So there were some people who didn't get into the troupe per se, but have stuck around and been sort of an ancillary part of it, like Paul Bellini.
Yeah.
And he's become sort of famous for being Paul on your show.
Yeah, and well, he started actually as our assistant, and he would answer the phone and go, "No, I'm not taking a message," and it's like, "What?" And so he was the worst assistant in the world. So we hired him as a writer, But he's always been sort of the gentle spot between the tsunami that is Scott and probably whatever my energy was. He was just sort of some Zen weird guy who had all these weird ideas and would smoke a joint with Scott, and they'd write some stuff, and Paul would try to figure it out. And yeah, he actually came and he did a little piece on the TallBoyz, kind of as Bellini, playing his stomach. In sort of a stylized piece.
Oh, that's so funny. And you got some other big guys on that to also play their stomachs. And it became a whole piece. That's very funny.
And it's like, I got you 5 days, Paul. He said, thank you, Bruce. I love you. Yeah. But also, Norm Hiscock or Gary Campbell or people we're still working with, originated with us out in Calgary. So, yes, your friends could stick around forever.
That's tremendous. Now, this also broke the Canadian border. I mean, Kids in the Hall TV show was executive produced by Lorne Michaels.
Correct.
So how did that happen?
Well, it was a weird thing. I mean,
from SNL, sorry.
We don't. I don't think we had a plan for how it was going to work. But he said, let's do a show, because Mark and I had written on Saturday Night Live, actually as very young men. I was 25.
That was prior to Kids in the Hall.
That was prior to Kids in the Hall. So he met us. And a whole laborious process went on, oh, are you coming back to the show? And then he came and he saw us, went to the Squeeze Club, which used to exist.
Oh, yeah.
And said, we should do a show. So it was decided that we should do a show. And then I think he didn't know how to do it. And luckily, Yvonne Fitzanne had just gone over to CBC. He'd been the executive on Saturday Night Live for NBC the year I did it. And then, like, I remember phoning him. I don't know why a 26-year-old was allowed to phone an executive who runs CBC. Maybe back then it was fine.
Chutzpah.
Yeah, I had chutzpah. And I said, so why don't you put money into our show? And he said, well, I don't know. That would be a good idea. Before I knew it, because it was almost going to go down. They were almost going to make us do record our show at Caroline's Comedy Club in New York. It's like, that's not a good idea.
No.
We all know that. And so it just happened.
And you had been, at this point, refining and honing your show for years at the Rivoli at this point?
Yeah, and refining and honing are kind of big words for, like, we just kept at it until we...
You didn't know you were refining and honing.
No, we were like sort of like birds, like trying to get out the window, not realizing the window was closed.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. We just kept at it until, I guess, skills landed upon us eventually.
Mm-hmm. And that went on for a number of years, like 6 years, 5 years?
Yeah, maybe less. I mean, the young man's story of his life, like, it seems like it takes forever, but it didn't. I think there was 3 years from where we started at the Rivoli till probably we had a TV show.
Right, and the TV show lasted how long?
6
years.
Yeah. 5 seasons that took 6 years because we did everything, and we're obsessive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know, CBC in Canada and HBO and CBS and Comedy Central, that's huge status stuff. How did that affect the troupe?
Well, I think the fact that we were in Toronto was great. I've always thought that if we had done the show in New York, it would be like, oh, Lou Reed has come here to see the show. Like, and it's the best thing an artist can do anyway. We sort of toiled in anonymity forever, and it was like, we're just doing the show. We're just doing the show. We don't do anything else. We just do the show. We write, we produce, we think of ideas. That's all we do. And then we go home and we do it again. And I think it wasn't until, like, the show was on the air. Remember, we went and did some shows in Detroit. It's like, oh, we sold out 1 show. No, we sold out 6 shows in Detroit. And the first night, they, like, rushed the stage. It's like, now what are you going to do? Like, what, you're going to jump up on what? And so I think the good thing for us was we'd had a belly full of work before we realized that there was any impact for anybody. And I do think that the thing about Kids in the Hall is it's a show about outsiders, made by outsiders, for outsiders. And I think that our fans are beautiful outsiders too, or more or less. And it's like, oh, there really is a lot of them. We never thought how many there would be until we started to kind of get out there.
You have some pretty out there characters as your outsiders characters. The Flying Pig, Cabbage Head, talkative school child Gavin, pop star Tammy, Secretary Kathy with a K. Yours is with a K, because there was Kathy with a C. And grumpy middle-aged man Gordon. Just to name a few. Salty Ham. Goddamn Salty Ham. You do it.
Goddamn Salty Ham. That was just,
for the rest of my life after hearing that, I have every time had Salty Ham, Jew, admitting to this, I have to say goddamn Salty Ham. I know. That is one of the great things, is that we insidiously get into people's lexicon. People say, like, they'll tell me phrases now of things from sketches, like, don't ever laugh at my car. Really? What's that from? And then they'll tell me, it's like, oh, that was mine? And so I think we're earworms in people's lexicons, I think. Yes. Yeah. But you remembered goddamn Salty Ham.
I do, because I would still do that sketch.
And you guys did a movie, Brain Candy. Does this all seem like a long time ago?
Now it seems like a long time ago. Like, yeah, I'm older now, but it's like, not really in a way. I realize we're different people now, but it doesn't seem that long ago, you know? And because I think sense of humor never ages. Like a comedy idea, 30 Helens Agree is a great surreal comedy idea, be that in 1990 or, the year 3000. So I think that's why some part of it feels evergreen for me.
So I guess I'm a Dave you know.
You are, yeah. But you're definitely David. You're not a Dave.
That's so true. My mother would be so pleased if she heard you say that. She said to me, I don't know, I was 12 or something, and she said, remember, you're a David, not a Dave. And I went, oh, gay? Yeah. I guess I'm gay.
No, not every David is gay. It's like,
really?
Yeah.
Really?
I just thought of 7. I'm wondering if they're gay or not.
So writing, touring, 5 personalities, 5 really big personalities with a lot of their own agendas.
Yep.
So how did that work?
I don't know. I mean, it's really odd when people, like, even now, because we've been having some conversations with the troupe, and it's like my poor assistant Thea is trying to figure out a conference call. It's like, how do you guys do it? It takes forever. Like, it is weird. I can't, from the outside, and I only can enter other groups, like I say, like the Trailer Park Boys or the Tragically Hip, because I know that there's weirdnesses that aren't seen. It's like the water. Like, you don't see so much that's underground. I don't know. Like, somebody's always on the outside of the troupe, outside of the group.
Right.
Someone's like, we're sniping about Mark because he's on Superstore, or Bruce because he's got a show. And then somebody suggests something and people make fun of it, and then they go, well, let's do most of it. Like, it is really just like being a family.
Yeah. How many tours have you done?
4.
4 tours?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Fun. I mean, I've got to see, I was just out on Seattle and Portland, San Francisco on my own. I mean, the fun of the Kids in the Hall was to be able to see the great cities of America and Canada. But, like, yeah, we're going to be in San Francisco for 4 nights. And so I think that was kind of the gravy, because also doing the shows, like 100 people. And then when you're on the road, it's you and 2 other people.
Yeah.
And so we kind of got to, after all those years, kind of coalesce again as sort of older men.
Yeah, and would you call yourselves? I know you said your family. Are you all friends?
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
And I think probably now more than ever, because when we were young, we, like, if somebody wanted to not do the movie, then we all couldn't do the movie, and we were all like in a band in a van, and we have to decide or not. And now it's like, as gentlemen, if we decide we want to do something, we're not beholden to each other. It's a choosing to do it. At a certain point, it felt like we had to just keep doing it until we said we're not doing it anymore. Although we never said we're not doing it anymore. We just didn't pick up the phone.
Right. So that means that there still could very well be another Kids in the Hall tour, film, whatever.
Oh, there's going to be.
Oh, there's going to be.
Oh, there's going to be. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Is that are you admitting to something now?
Yeah, I can't announce it yet, but we're doing a miniseries this summer.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you're not announcing it.
I'm not announcing it until they announce it.
I won't
next
tell
month.
anyone.
Yeah.
That's great news.
Yeah.
I think I did looping on one of your series. Your last.
Death Comes to Town?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we did
Yeah.
looping on that. Yeah. That was very funny too. Okay, I have to ask you. You have some recordings actually.
Yep.
So, Shame-Based Man and Drunk Baby Project both.
Yep.
So. How did you go about recording an album? Like, where did that come from?
Well, the worst answer is they asked me to do it.
Oh,
and it was interesting because when the show was on, I was approached by someone at Tim Sumner's at Atlantic Records. He said, "Wow, the Daves I know could be a big hit. Should we put it out?" I said, "No, why? To make a bunch of money and sell a lot of records." And so I made him, like, come up a couple times and watch me do weird shit at Tarragon or whatever. And it's like, so it was decided I was going to do a record. And it was fun for me because growing up, the most important thing was not television shows.
No.
It was records. So to be in a recording studio, doing a real record was fun. And then the second one I did out at the Tragically Hip's in Bath, their studio. And so they were some of the most fun things ever, just working on it fast. And, my stuff's always been musical and lyrical and weird and beat poetry and whatever, jazz and dark rock, and it just sort of lends it to that.
Where did all that come from? Where did all that jazz and darkness and bebop and...
Well, that was my growing up. I was an angry, young, drunk teenager, and rock music was my thing. Until I found comedy, I was a punk. And music, as for a lot of young men, even, my son's pretty happy, he's 13, but it's rap. It's like I don't know what Eli's going through, but it's like the music, your energy goes there, and certainly your anger goes there. And so that was all I cared about until I was probably till I found comedy, really.
How old were you when you found comedy?
22. I was at Mount Royal College taking journalism, and it's like, oh, no, I don't have to do that. I'm going to do Loose Moose now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you worked on the albums, you worked with Bob Wiseman.
Yep.
And this is When in his career?
Well, he was doing his Cool Records. I mean, he's always been doing Cool Records, but he was doing his
Post Blue Rodeo?
It was he was in Blue Rodeo at the time, but he
Uh-huh.
was still doing his solo records, and he actually did the score for I'll release it again. My first short film called Coleslaw Warehouse,
Oh,
which was basically, death of a salesman, a coleslaw salesman, the weirdest thing in the world. And that was the old days when I put in a 2-page thing into the Canada Council.
mm-hmm.
Like, I want to do a weird movie about a coleslaw salesman, and they sent me a check for $15,000.
What?
And it's like,
When was this?
this was 90.
That was a lot of money back
Yeah,
then.
and it's just like, and then I got more money, and it's like, oh, I guess I have to do Coleslaw Warehouse now.
Well, we have to see it. Release
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
please. As most actors want to do. You've directed.
Yeah.
So, and you continue to direct.
Yep.
How does that differ from your performance? Like, how do you attack that differently?
Well, it's all like, what's the good idea in a
Uh-huh.
way, and like even as I started the show, when I watch the show, I think there's 4 funny guys and some guy with a big head who wiggles his hands all the time, and that's me. So I've always been the person who goes, that music should be right, or the it has to be right, or the chair has to be right, or the extras have to look right, or background as they're called now, have to look right. And so I've always had the detail brain, and I think directing is that. And so I had kind of a loopy relationship with it for a while, and then I started to sort of direct TV again. I was like, oh, hey, I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is really fun, and it's fast, And so I think directing TV is fun. Features are a little harder because you're just stuck with something for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all creative problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best angle? What's the funniest line? Is the end work? Like, that's what I love. I did Trailer Park Boys new series last year. We shot 10 episodes in 19 days. And it's like, all we kept doing is like, oh, there's a big fight over who gets to the karaoke machine. Okay, what's the jokes? What's the thing? Let's shoot. Like,
It's block shooting, I
yeah.
bet. Out of sequence?
Oh, yeah, well, whatever. I don't even know what to call it that. But it's like, there's something fun about working fast. Also, there's fun, picking stuff and making it perfect. But like, it's like improv,
Mm-hmm.
Working quickly.
And I did notice that some of the sketches that I saw TallBoyz do live when I saw your show
Right.
also made it to the TV, and this is to the TV show. And this is a question I'm going to ask them as well.
Right.
How do you translate something that's so stagey to make it work on TV?
Well, it's hard. It really is hard. I remember when we were starting out, and we worked with Dave Thomas for a while from SCTV, and he said all our sketches that were on stage didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going, well, ours are different because ours are better. And then it was like, yeah, a lot of our stage sketches didn't work so well because there's just there's a pause with the audience, and you have to walk over there to make that joke land. And on TV, it just moves faster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think with that, I had to get the guys the map of the scene out of their head, because on stage they know that's a big laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And then I think there was a quote-unquote staginess to some of their work early on that I had to sort of beat out of them. And they're natural on-camera performers. They're not, even more so than stage performers. Like, they're really quickly accomplished. So no, it's not. We don't all go at the same time. That's a stage thing. So
Yeah.
I think it was to try to beat those up a little bit.
And that's interesting that you say that, because they really don't have that much experience, and that you say they're really natural on camera. So that's just sort of a talent.
We just got lucky.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
when I met them, they only had 10 sketches.
Mhm.
They hadn't been at it as long as the kids in the hall, who kind of had a couple hundred, or what we'd been at it 5 or 6 years.
Honing.
Yeah, and honing or whatever in obscurity. And so I think it was actually an advantage that they weren't sort of crystallized on stage over and over and over, like maybe how some Second City performers can get tricks or whatever. And I think there was still a freshness to them and a vulnerability. Like, I took them into rehearsal, and it's like, I realized they hadn't been on camera really. It's like, so this is a tape mark, and this is what's going to happen. We're going to block the scene, and here's where the camera's going to be. And it was like, oh, okay, we're going to be doing that. But they soaked it up, like, amazingly.
That's very lucky for you.
Yeah.
But you must have seen that in there. You must have seen it in them when you first saw their
Well, I was
sketch.
attracted to their raw talent and what they were saying, and just their energy and their sweetness and creativity. And it's like in anything. It's like you read a script, you go, oh, this is really good. And then you start going, oh, what are the problems? And then you see the problems. Not the problems or the challenges, as they're now called.
Challenges.
Yeah. And
challenges.
so I was attracted by all the great things. And it's like, okay, then there's some stuff for them to figure out. Let's figure it out.
So they're TallBoyz.
Yeah.
And they actually are all TallBoyz.
Yeah.
Usually they look up to their executive producer, showrunner.
Yep.
You're not a tall person?
I'm a little man.
Little man,
Yeah.
so they're...
Oh, no, they like to look down on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We like to make fun of the little man. Of course.
I mean, they have a sketch where, I guess, who's the shortest? The shortest
It's
is
Franco, yeah.
And he's like 5'11" or something.
Yeah.
And so going to the club when you're
Yep,
tall, or
yep.
was it
Tall in the club, yeah.
Tall in the club, and he's like, I'm tall. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No,
Yeah.
you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. So I just I have to say it. You've had this material that you've honed. There's that word again, that you've used over the years. You've recreated Daddy's on the Drink, Drunk Baby Project, Hangover Chronicles, Let's Start a Riot, How a Young Drunk Punk Became a Hollywood Dad, Young Drunk Punk.
Right.
What is your relationship with the drink?
Well, I sure like a gin at the end of and it's Friday. My dad was a raging alcoholic. So was my stepmom, and all the kids, parents. Scott's parents didn't really drink, but Dave's parents, Kevin's, raging alcoholics. And so I think that's my group. That's my group. That's all the guys I know. It's like. Who is the drunk, your mom or your dad? Both, or and it's rare if someone goes, oh, neither. And so I think that I came as a product of a drunk townhouse existence, and I've been thinking about it ever since.
So you're working it out.
Oh yeah, no, and it's my dad ended up going to AA, ironically, and then eventually died. But it's like, no, I think there's something about that certainly formed me and the savage that I once was, and hopefully I'm a nicer man now, but it's like, yeah, no, that's all our start.
Mm-hmm. And that's changed presumably now that you've become a dad and you have a family and...
Oh yeah, and that was the great thing, A, with the kids in the hall, and B, with my own family. It's like, oh no, I had a really shitty family I was born into, and then I had two other great ones, the kids in the hall and my own family.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So are you no longer a young drunk punk?
I'm still a punk. I still feel like even as I'm dealing on things, it's like, I'm not going to do that. I went to Amazon for a meeting, and it's like, here's your ID you're wearing. It's like, I'm not wearing ID around my neck. It's like, Bruce, what are you holding on to? It's like, no, I'm still not doing it. I'm still a punk.
Yeah. Are you still a kid?
I'm still a kid in the hall, but I'm not a kid. No.
No, you're not a kid anymore?
I'm kind of a kid. I think I am, sort of.
That's the punk side of you is still a kid?
Yeah.
Well, you'll always be a kid to everyone who loves the kids in the hall. And your touch is all over TallBoyz, and it's great to see.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
No, thank you, and thank you for coming in, Bruce, my friend.
Anytime. Go ACTRA.
Well, it's no lie to say that Bruce McCulloch will always be a kid in the hall to me. Now let's hear from some of his TallBoyz. They're very tall. So I'm here with two of the TallBoyz. And since this is a podcast, the people who may not have... See, I've seen you on TV, and it's hard to sense exactly how tall you are when you're just amongst yourselves, because you're all tall. So how tall are you?
I think together we're like 12.6 feet.
12.6?
I thought it was 25.2.
Well, I mean, just us.
Just us.
the two. Yeah.
Oh, you've added you all up
Yeah.
together?
Yes, all four of us.
How many feet is that?
It's 25 feet, 2 inches.
25 feet, 2 inches. And what about in metric?
Oh, no.
Come on. Meters. We need the meters.
How many liters are we?
I know the ounce, but I can't do the calculation.
Wow, you're so old school.
So but I'm 6'1".
6'1"?
And I'm 6'5".
Yeah.
And I am shrinking. So I used to be 5'11". At least that's what my resume said. And I think I'm like 5'10"-ish now. But you guys do seem kind of tall to me, I have to say. And you used to be TallBoyz to men, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But now you're not TallBoyz to men anymore?
Not legally.
Somebody else took that name?
Yeah, we found out. We had no idea. Apparently, there's some sort of band.
Band, yeah.
Some group or something.
Yeah. So you couldn't have their name?
Yeah, the legal ramifications were great. So
Yeah.
we couldn't.
It's okay for the stage.
Yeah.
You guys, that's where you guys came from?
Yes, doing live sketch and improv.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
We started off as a sketch. I'm not speaking to you. I'm looking at the microphone.
Well, my
Makes me less
concern,
nervous.
my concern is it looking back. That's the concern.
We started off just doing a live sketch. We came together as 4 stand-up comedians, and we started doing our live sketch comedy at stand-up shows.
Oh yeah, and you just happen to be know each other
Well, me
from
and
there.
Tim.
Oh yeah, well, me and Vance, we met at the Humber College comedy program. We were in class together both our years there, and I guess had similar sensibilities. And I remember like a teacher, Larry Horowitz, was like, "You guys should work together," and we did. And then we met Goulet and Franco, the other 2 members. Yeah, just doing stand up
On the circuit.
Yeah. And then we combined all our times at open mics. Instead of doing 5-minute each, we'd hey, could we just do 20 minutes and let us all just do a sketch for some comedians, and it ended up working out.
Wow, breaking the rules there. Yeah. That's good. I remember Larry Horowitz when he was a stand-up comedian. He used to have this. I remember he used to do why don't they call cars after animals? So he would do like the Ford pig. I remember that.
He taught us that joke.
Did
he did.
How can you guys do it now? Do you remember the joke?
Nothing more than Ford pig and the honk. But
that's right. Yeah. Everyone knows Larry Horowitz's Ford pig.
It's a great bit.
It's a great bit. Well, first of all, congratulations. You guys got a second season on CBC and Jam. That must feel great.
Oh, thanks.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing of it. Thank you so much. It's shocking.
You're screwing with me, right? I have nothing to do with it.
David, you're the best. I can't believe you did this for us.
Wow. Presumably, you're getting ready for that now. When are you shooting?
We start shooting mid-June.
May. Beginning of May.
So you really don't know.
Yeah, I'll be there mid-June. Hopefully the crew is still there.
And the show is very funny. And apparently, from the episode that I saw, you're actually going to join another comedy troupe. Is that true? You're
the trade was revoked by Baroness, but
the Baroness von Sketch Show has revoked it.
They haven't gotten back to us.
So
we're
okay.
gonna take
even though you put it in a sketch, you're still not. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really because I thought it was really important. It's because Bruce was actually in the sketch playing Bruce as the executive producer. So.
Yeah, we wanted to get rid of him, but no one else would take him, so we're keeping Vance around.
Dear. That's the way it's going to go. So I noticed one big difference between you guys and the kids in the hall, let's say. Do you mind me comparing you to the kids in the hall?
No, what an honor.
Mm-hmm. Especially height-wise.
Yeah, especially height-wise, yeah. I don't think anybody was as tall as the shortest person in your troupe. Is that you play many characters, and it's great, the characters that you do, but you don't necessarily play women so much in the show. Now, was that an act of choice, or you don't like women?
Definitely not the latter. I think we did have some discussions about it. I think one was also to separate us from the kids in the hall because that's something they're known for, and they're great at doing that. And also to kind of give a chance to spotlight like local talent. Mm-hmm. Like we know so many hilarious women in the scene, like doing comedy and being like, oh, we can write a role and give it to someone we know, and they could nail it.
Yeah. And you guys have. I mean, the women are really great. Mm-hmm. They're fantastic to watch. Although, I think you might look good in a wig. So, how does your writing process work? Like, do you one of you come up with a sketch? Do you pitch each other? Do you write down a dream journal? How does it work?
In the beginning, like before we wrote for TV, it was all we'd sit at a table like this, just a round table, all hang out and shoot the shit until something funny came up, and we'd riff on that.
Yeah, just story build, and then hopefully we had a 5-minute sketch, just beats enough to get to an end of a sketch, and then we'd go out and try it, And then just like you would stand-up comedy, you just keep refining the jokes and refining the sketch, and then hopefully you have just a nice nugget there.
And what if one of you hates it?
Well, I think it's we have conversations especially we'd sit and just talk about a sketch for like 3 hours and like try and finesse some way to make everybody happy or some sort of compromise or something that worked for all us. And then usually, especially in the live days like that, like it could take weeks to months, but eventually like we'd find something that like would light a fire under all of us and be like, oh, that's it, that's the ending. It took some time, but we did it.
So you don't just throw it out. You really nurture it and develop it, and
We throw some stuff out.
Yeah.
oh, you do.
Yeah, not every idea is going to be so perfect. But it's just with some of the stuff that we're stuck on, maybe it's about just throwing a wrench into it. Maybe it's a completely different take on it, a crazy, wild idea that gets one person's mind going. They come up with a joke, and then more jokes. And you're like, okay, this is I didn't see this ending before, but now it's clear as day because we all love it.
It sounds to me like you guys have done some conflict resolution work.
Yeah, isn't that what being a sketch troupe is?
Yeah, it's a relationship with 3 men, and you know how hard a relationship with 1 man is. So.
I would hope someday to know. So you started out in theater, and full disclosure, I saw the show that you did with Bruce at the Sketchfest. I guess
2 years ago.
2 years ago. 2 years ago. Yeah, I went with my son. And it was very funny. And when I heard that you guys were going to do this TV show, I was thinking, how's this going to translate to TV? And what was that process like for you guys?
It was definitely a big learning process. Like we had to change our writing process. Because it took so long. We'd spend 3 hours on one sketch. A lot of sketches are needed for scripts and TV. So it was like being able to write down a sketch like individually, and then coming together to punch it up and strengthen it was something we had to learn.
Yeah, when we're a live troupe, for about a year and a half, 2 years. We came up with like 15 sketches that we're like, these are gold, these are the best we can do. And it took that amount of time, and then we hop into the room, and then 3 months later we have 150 sketches.
In the writer's room.
We're just, we're going off and writing them on our own and bringing them back to the table and then writing all that. It was a complete change in writing and quantity and quality.
And when you look back on that, do you think, how did we do that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So much work. I didn't realize how much work it was to be a sketch comedian. It's a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. But I'm surprised.
But can you imagine yourself doing somebody else's writing?
Yeah, if you get to know somebody's voice.
I mean like outside of your force, some.
Oh yeah. I mean, now I don't think before when we were just live, I can't imagine it. But I guess having written so much, like I feel like I've learned a lot about writing that I could probably apply some skills elsewhere. But
And who's in the writing room with you guys?
So it's the 4 of us. It's Franco Guled, Vance, and Tim, and then we have our 2 writers that we started a project with before we got the offer, and they're Luke and Adam. And we were starting like a web series, and we just really like working with their minds and the way they develop story. So they're in the writers' room with us as well.
They were for the first season as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And then we bring in like comics that we like around the city. So last year we had Brand Nash Mohammed in, who's a fantastic stand-up comedian and actor. And this year we had people like Hannah Eunice, who's was just a new Eden. She's fantastic, excellent comedian, writer, actor.
And you bring her in for the whole time, or
for about a week.
A week.
Yeah, we were bringing different comics.
Suck them dry and then throw them out.
Yeah, you got it. You know how this works. The industry.
So tell me what it was like, because Bruce McCulloch. I mean, kids in the hall, they find you. Bruce is like saying, I think I want to work with you guys. Well, what was your reaction like?
Disbelief. Yeah, it was weird. Or like, yeah, I don't know. It's incredible. Like, what an honor, but it's like, yeah, I can't believe this. Like, it's a dream come true. but I was like, there's no way this was gonna happen. I don't know.
Are you still fanboying?
Yeah, every day.
And have you met the other kids?
We met Mark McKinney when we were in Humber College,
Mm-hmm.
and he hosted our end of the year industry show.
Yeah, I've met Kevin, McDonald, and Scott, but I've yet to meet Dave. But he's
Very
elusive.
nice.
Oh yeah,
He's very nice. Yeah, it's very nice. So tell me what it was like initially, and this is going back a little bit, making that leap from the stage to TV, performance-wise. Because I asked Bruce that question as well, because the kids and they all also came from years of doing stage work and then had to all of a sudden adapt their stage work to TV method.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you guys?
For me, the instant gratification was gone. You get that laugh, and you're like, that works. Or you don't get a laugh, you're like, gotta change that. And you kind of throw trust out the window. Trust in yourself, trust in you're just like, what the audience says goes when you're performing live. And then when you get into the room, it's all about trust. It's I trust this joke. I find it funny. I'm gonna present it to the others. They gotta trust me and what I think is funny and what I'm gonna fight for. And it's usually just me fighting for.
And he's fighting physically.
You guys do a very funny sketch that takes place in an airport washroom.
Oh yeah.
Now, and you two are both in that washroom together. You guys are not tiny, really. You're tall boys. And it looked like an airplane washroom. It looked like an airplane, so it was definitely an airplane set, which was great, or an airplane. But was that half of an airplane washroom?
Yeah. They I don't know where they found it, but yeah, they had an airplane set that had an airplane washroom, but it was just too small to get all the angles with the camera.
And
it was definitely used. But they had this, just the washroom and just the 3 doors of the washroom.
It was
3 walls.
We just found it in the production house that we're using.
Really?
In Scarborough. They're like, hey, I think we found something. And they take us back to the back of the warehouse. Look at this. And they're tearing out the walls. It's perfect. So.
And who came up with that idea for that sketch?
Oh, that was me. I wrote that one. I have no idea where it came from.
So bizarre. And I like the Black Mirror ending. It was really good. I don't want to give it away, but it was very funny. So that clearly was not a sketch that was done on stage.
Oh, it was at one point.
Oh, it was.
Or not. It wasn't a TallBoyz sketch done on stage, because I used to be part of the Sketchersons, which is a weekly show. They do Sunday Night Live at Comedy Bar every night in Toronto, every Sunday in Toronto. So it's like a new sketch show. So I originally wrote that sketch there and did it live there. But it works so much better when you can actually have a washroom set. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And an airplane set.
Yeah.
That was very cool. And other sketches that actually made their way to TV. What was the transition like for some of those other sketches? Like, I know, like some of them you stand in a line and you do a song, or like how did that work for you guys to translate that?
I think it was a lot of like thinking visually, which is different. Like when you're on live sketch, there's willing suspension of disbelief. So you can do anything, and you don't have to think about the set and what's going on. Like you just have to think about your movement and your actions, and you can mime any object. So like to translate some over, it's like, oh, where is this set? What are the guys wearing? What do they look like? Is this person in a wig? Like it was a lot of that stuff, which like before we were purely just thinking about the jokes and trying to say them in the best way possible, how to communicate this idea. But now it's like, how do we establish a world that people will get and adds to the joke?
And there's somebody in the other room who's just yelling, leaning back their chair, yelling, "We can't afford that."
Yeah. You get that a lot. You can't afford that.
Well, we have beautiful minds.
Yeah,
so we can get that a lot.
Beautiful,
that's a nice way to put it.
Expensive, creative, non-blocking mind. So there's one big difference between you guys and the kids in the hall, and that is they were all white dudes for sure. And
all of them.
Wasn't Mark McKinney not a white dude at one point?
Well, I think he was a chicken lady, so does that count as but from that sort of POC perspective, how much a part of I've seen it, but how much of it is the focus of TallBoyz?
I find we do talk about it and have discussions about it a lot. Like if someone has a sketch that revolves around a certain POV, but I think it's also just a byproduct of us being ourselves. Is that like even if we rewrite a dumb sketch about guys in an airplane bathroom, like we are diverse people, and I feel like that plays a factor in what people see and on screen. But it is something we do like put a lot of thought into, like especially anything that we think we'll be representing, who we are. It's something that like we want to feel as good about the idea as we can before we put it out there.
And breaking stereotypes, is that important?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, like it's like the stereotypes are there. It could be the setup for a great joke as well if we play it the right way.
Yeah, I say breaking stereotypes, but also making stereotypes, making our own stereotypes about what it is when two black guys, someone who's indigenous, and an Asian person hang around. This is we're setting the bar for the brand new racist jokes.
That's so true. And what do you think? What percentage do you think are actual tall jokes? Because there's a lot of tall jokes.
Oh wow!
I'd say it's under 12% tall.
Under
jokes.
12.
There's one sketch, Tall in the Club's like dedicated to height
for
jokes.
sure.
People were so sure that was like they're like, this is what the show's about.
Yeah.
Just tall people.
Which would be interesting. Maybe we should have dived in a bit harder, but I'd say like 12, 15% most tall, and then we get into other territory. There's no short jokes. We need to work on that.
Well, in the Tall in the Bar, there was some short jokes.
Oh yeah, I get. By proxy.
So you've got that. What about social issues? Dealing with social issues. I mean, I know it plays a part in your work. How important is it?
It's definitely handled with care, for sure. We don't want to put out a sketch. It's just like, here's 5 minutes of us teaching you. We definitely want it to be funny, but handled with care. It really depends on how you're feeling on pitch day. Yeah, you can come in with something. Maybe you saw something online that pissed you off, or maybe it made you feel empowered or passionate about it, and you bring it into the sketch, and you're gonna have to carry that same passion all the way right to the finish line when you wrap.
What is the most surprising pitch that was actually accepted? Do you think?
Oh, that's a good one. I gotta think back to the first season.
Airplane bathroom was so wacky.
It
was
certainly
so
was.
wacky. I think it was our voices that kind of sold it.
Oh yeah.
Because it was a hard sell.
Was it a hard sell?
Yeah. They're like, okay. It's like it's got some legs, but
yeah.
But they're pissed on.
And it had to compete with a lot of other. We had or at least me. I'll speak from it. There was a lot of bathroom ideas that was turning up.
And they've made it. Like I've noticed there's a few bathrooms.
Yeah.
In the show there.
So we got to balance out the social commentary. And what do we all have in common as a people?
Yeah. That's what everyone poops. I learned that as a kid, and it still resonates.
Everyone poops.
Yeah.
Write that down. What about now? The show's been on the air for a little bit. It's on Gem. It's on CBC. What's it like to walk around as TallBoyz with a show on TV?
Well, one time we walked around as TallBoyz, all four of us, and someone yelled, "Hey, there's the TallBoyz." So that's been about the extent of
It's great.
what it has been to been.
Wow, you guys have made it.
My favorite is when you get mispronounced. I was with Goulet in Montreal. He's like, "Big boys, you guys are big boys," and maybe he just was marveling at our height. That's the thing, you never know. But I like to think they were a fan.
Big boys to men. Well, that's it. That's been the extent of it.
That's Canadian fame.
Oh, no, tell me it isn't so. I actually got it recognized once in I was urinating by somebody.
Oh no!
And they went, "Oh, aren't you on that show?" I went, "Can we not talk about that?" How much? Like, you guys are not super old. How much TV experience did you have when you got into this?
Well, I had written on a pilot, one of Bruce's other pilots. It was Oakton's Finest or something blue. It was a cop show, and that one didn't get picked up. But on camera experience, I'd done a film called Indian Horse just prior to starting in the troupe with these guys. So that's the extent of my experience before starting TallBoyz. Just one feature film. Just one little
one feature. And did you have like a name in it as a character and everything?
Ernie
Name
Jack
and a mustache.
And a mustache.
Supplied by the film.
Fight scene.
Was it paste on mustache?
It was glued on.
Yeah,
it was glued on.
And a fight scene.
Yeah.
Was it one full one, or did they do a bunch of hairs?
Oh no, it was thank God it was a full one. I've done the hairs where they seem to clip these real hairs real thin, so you can't tell which part of the body they came from. Then they put the glue and they put it all over you.
Oh dear. And what about you, Tim?
Writing-wise, I had no experience in TV. I don't. Goulet or Franco didn't either. I've had some like acting experience, like just doing like commercials and like shooting stuff. But yeah, this was the first thing like writing in a professional setting. So it was very nerve-wracking, and it's been like a real big learning experience. Like it's been incredible.
And in on-camera stuff.
A lot of commercials and acting. I've been like doing drama. I went to an arts high school, the Etobicoke School of the Arts, and like
nice.
I've been into acting and performing for a while. Yeah.
And you did Second City?
Yeah. Did Second City. Was understudying the Tourco there for a bit, and Franco was on the Tourco. Yeah.
Touring company for people who don't know the lingo.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Just helping people out here. That's my job. And improv, do you guys work right out of improv ever now?
Yeah, I guess our improv minds are always going when we're shooting ideas around the table, but we're not clap focusing or jumping into scenes.
Not games and everything, but like, would you say, hey, here's the idea of it, and let's try to act it out?
It definitely does happen, but not as much. Like in the beginning, like that was pretty much our writing process. Like our first like 15 sketches or whatever, our first couple of live shows, we didn't have very much written down on paper. All the sketches were through improv, and then we'd record them. That's how we keep track of them. And then which meant they'd change like over the years that we do them. We'd find new funny beats that we liked. But now we still do. We'll take a sketch here and there and like improv around the premise. But I feel like most of that happens on set. The improv and the performance, that's where it comes out.
So the writing is set, and then you take it to the actual shoot, and then it can grow and change.
Yeah. There might be improv in like a line we read and a script read, and we might throw it in there. But
when we were just writing, just something we learned, like I didn't know this, but when you're just writing in a writer's room, you're just trying to sell the script to CBC. You're just trying to give them, here's our ideas. It's concise. It's clean. Give us money. And then they give us the money, and then we can go on set and be like, all right, I feel like I can improvise this line. I can feel like I can improvise this line.
And should you be saying this?
No. Absolutely. I realized this
in the middle of it. Very funny. So how is season 2 going to be different from season 1, boys?
Bigger, better, taller. We're each growing 2 inches.
Is that possible?
We all bought boots.
Not because you can afford them.
But I mean, I think I'm really proud of our first season. I think we did a great job, but I think we all learned so much in the process of making that to get a second shot at doing it again. Like, I think it's going to be up a couple notches. Yeah.
A couple notches.
Yeah.
Well, that's taller for sure. That's fantastic. Now that you're doing this, do you have any like separate lives? Is it all TallBoyz all the time?
I think we're just trying to create the best season possible. So for me, that makes I go to bed at 9. I get up at 6. I'm looking at scripts and reading them, and then I'm off to work, and then working at work there. So my life has kind of gone away, but just being married to the work is very satisfying at this age.
And I have a second sketch troupe in another province.
What?
They don't know about.
What?
I go there on weekends, and yeah.
Under another name?
Yeah. Look out for Height Boys. Come soon.
Sounds like a good idea. Do you have a life outside of this? Other than the sketches?
I mean, no, but I don't think I ever had a life. I mean, I'll do we do like live comedy here and there, and like make time to hang out with friends and family. But I've been trying to learn the bass. I don't know what a life is.
Oh my goodness!
Trying to get hobbies. Yeah.
I'm playing guitar at home. Why don't we hang out?
Yeah. Bass and guitar don't go together. Too many strings.
Well, it's been a total pleasure, you guys. You're tall. I expected that, but you're also very funny and very eloquent, and I'm really looking forward to season 2.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
you guys.
Great to be here, David. Nice
you
talking to you.
Well, I think it's safe to say that the future of comedy in Canada is in big hands. I mean, good hands, of course. Thanks for listening. I'm David Gale. ACTRA Spotlight is produced by Cass Enright and recorded in ACTRA Toronto's Gordon Pinson studio. You can get Spotlight on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and keep watching Canadian. There's lots great to see.